Welcome, curious minds, to another deep dive. Today, we're really embarking on something, well, profound. A journey that challenges our most basic assumptions about existence itself. We've got this unique set of sources, and they're just brimming with insights that honestly could reshape how you understand life, death, and what lies beyond.
Indeed, it's fascinating stuff.
Yeah.
This material lays out an almost mystical framework, really, for everything, from the moment we're born, why we face certain health issues, even what actually happens when we transition from this life. So our mission today, yours and mine, is to kind of distill the most essential, maybe the most mind-bending nuggets from this rich tapestry and help you connect the dots on a really deep level.
Absolutely. Prepare to look at your own birth, even your physical body, through a totally new lens. What we're digging into here is way more intricate and, frankly, just astonishing than most of us probably imagine. So, what is this deep dive actually about? Well, it's about a hidden architecture of life, some surprising reasons why we might feel fragmented, and this cosmic journey that stretches way, way beyond our physical time here.
Okay, let's start unpacking this. We usually think of birth as pretty straightforward, right? You're born, you see your mother, you start nursing. Simple.
Yeah.
But these sources, they suggest the start of a new life is, well, anything but simple.
That's right. The whole journey, it seems, begins not just with, physical conception, but when something described as a planet of energy fields makes a conscious choice, a decision to project itself, to manifest as a new being. And what's really interesting is that some existing living beings, those already here, apparently actively participate in that initial projection. They sort of chip in to that first spark. Wow. Okay. And the imagery here is incredibly vivid, almost like sacred geometry or something. You have to imagine your nascent being as a cocoon, an energetic vessel. And behind it, there's this luminous pink arc, like a curved energy spiral. And crucially, around this arc, there are 16 flames, 8 on each side, actively participating in your creation. So what are these flames? How do they shape us?
Yeah, that's fundamental. These flames, they aren't just symbolic pictures. They're described as actual energetic entities, and they contribute their genetics.
Yeah.
But importantly, not just DNA in the way we usually think about it. It's more like their memory, their collected experience, their energetic info. They use this to program the new life, which essentially gives you a whole bunch of possibilities. And that is apparently what makes each person truly unique, distinct from everyone else.
Okay, so that might explain why maybe even when you were really young, you might have felt like you just know some things, like an affinity for music, or you grasp a concept easily, or a skill feels totally unlearned. It's because each of those 16 flames brought its own knowledge, its own sort of energetic wisdom to the table to compose you. You arrive kind of preloaded.
Precisely. Exactly. And this complex creation, this composite new being, it's initially bound together, unified by something called the double, or the projection of the petals.
Hmm.
This double acts almost like a higher energetic blueprint, maybe, a more complete version of us, holding all these contributing energies together. And the sources say that in the first few years of life, a young being's awareness is still really deeply connected to Nagual, this vital energy field. You might even see this with newborns. They inhale, their eyes pop open like they're taking everything in, then they exhale and drift back off.
Hmm.
They apparently need to be present in that energy field to really anchor their existence here.
Right. So we emerge from this incredible complex genesis full of innate knowledge, energetically complete. But as we grow, this wholeness seems to face a pretty immediate challenge, doesn't it? The sources talk about this strong societal pull. We need to become more complex, align with civilization, which demands a very specific set of normatives, rules.
And that's where the pain starts,
Sort of,
unfortunately,
yeah.
according to this material, yeah. This alignment process, it's described as a very painful process. Young beings often find they have to deny their inherent completeness, their wholeness, just to fit in with the established norms. The sources are pretty blunt. This pressure fragments us, breaks us down.
And you can see the signs, can't you? Even from a young age. Those sudden mood swings in kids that seem to come from nowhere, the explosive tantrums, or that really strong, often rebellious protest mood you see in teenagers. Those are described as direct signs of this fragmentation happening, a reaction to losing parts of who we truly are.
And it starts really early. When a young being just starts to instinctively get what its parents or society expect,
Yeah.
young beings have these things called callings, powerful impulses coming from deeper levels of awareness. The sources name them second attention and even third attention.
Okay, let's clarify that maybe. First attention is like our normal everyday waking state.
Right, and second attention is more like a dream state, energetic reality, non-ordinary reality. Third attention is, well, a fully integrated, profound state of awareness. But at that early age, Their first attention isn't really disciplined enough or ready to handle these deeper impulses. So there's this internal conflict.
And it often starts with simple things, basic rules: don't break that, be quiet, don't pee your pants, don't bother the adults.
Mm.
The child, just wanting acceptance, starts to internalize these rules. They might start thinking, maybe I am doing something wrong, and they try to stop natural behaviors that don't fit the mold.
Yeah, and there's this really powerful personal story from the speaker in the sources that illustrates this perfectly. They remembered that childhood thing of having to stop peeing their pants, right? A standard societal rule. Later, much later, in a really profound dream, they realized they needed to get back a lost fragment to feel whole again. And this fragment showed up as a crying little boy. The speaker knew it was a part of themselves they'd pushed away. So in the dream, they just opened their arms, hugged this little energetic form, and the boy turned into a small ball of energy that got absorbed right into their chest. And that experience just showed them so clearly how fragments of our awareness, our energy, get lost because of these pressures.
Wow. And the speaker apparently went on to gather several hundreds of these lost fragments, all tied to adapting to different rules and internalizing those normatives. But the amazing part is, after doing this, they didn't suddenly start peeing their pants again or acting out old behaviors. Instead, they felt this deep, undeniable completeness, a real integration. It was a phase of restoring their perception.
Exactly. A restoration.
Right.
Now, moving on, our physical body, it's described in a really radical way, too. Not just cells in biology. It's apparently made of a lot of projections of the petals.
Yeah.
And they're all bound together by one idea.
Yeah. Okay. Visualize tiny coral balls, or these intricate small bundles of energy, microscopic. And these bundles have different colors indicating their group or function. So maybe red for bundles making up the chest, the heart, the lungs. And there are millions, maybe billions of these energy bundles. Together, they form our cells. And each bundle, each cell, is somehow aware of its purpose within the whole organism.
Okay, now here's where it gets really crucial for our health and well-being. The sources say if you don't respect the idea that united this projection as a one organism, that core purpose, that contract, then these very bundles start to destroy you from within. Which brings us to this really profound concept, the contract.
Yes, the contract. The sources talk about this fundamental contract that all living beings apparently have. And there's one point that's universal in all these contracts: the directive to remember your past lives, to reclaim the energy, the wisdom, the experiences from previous incarnations. Your individual contract might have millions of other specific points unique to you, but that one, remembering past lives, is apparently common to everyone.
So think about what that means. Our physical health isn't just biology. It's deeply tied to our energetic alignment with this deeper purpose. When we refuse to fulfill a point in our contract, whether it's, remembering that wisdom or becoming more aware or just participating in this big evolution of consciousness, the actual energy building blocks of our body, these bundles of energy, they literally begin to leave you. It's like they're saying, nope, I'm out. This organism isn't following the plan, the contract.
And this leaving of bundles isn't just some vague idea. The sources suggest this energetic separation can directly cause serious physical problems, even things like cancer. The core message seems to be, our well-being is totally linked to our spiritual and energetic integrity.
Right. And instead of only relying on, say, conventional medicine, the solution offered here is pretty radical. It's to turn to your own selves, meaning communicate with these bundles of energy that make you up. Internally, energetically, you can apparently come to an agreement with them. And if that agreement is made and you actually honor it, the illness can astonishingly just disappear. But, and this is a big but, you cannot lie to yourselves.
Yeah.
Because these bundles, they're part of your own consciousness. They know. They'll remember and remind you if you try to cheat the agreement.
Okay, that's huge. Which brings us logically to the ultimate transition: death. The sources describe this thing called a tumbling force. It's constantly interacting with our cocoon, our energy shell. Picture it like a pink wave rolling down at a 45-degree angle. It's subtle, but it's this relentless energetic pressure affecting all living things, even insects, bacteria.
And this force keeps pressing on the cocoon until it finds a weakness, a crack. This crack could be an energetic flaw linked to an organ that's already sick, or it might be caused by external stuff like severe illness, maybe long-term alcohol use, narcotics. It's a point of vulnerability in the energy field.
Now, if the crack isn't too big, apparently there's a chance to stop the process. The cocoon can restore itself, energetically heal. However, if a crack gets very big, like spreading through half the cocoon, that leads to an irreversible change. And that ultimately is what we call physical death.
Okay, so for what the sources call an unprepared human, someone who hasn't done this kind of inner work, the moment of death is described as pretty abrupt. The cocoon's surface just falls down. The assemblage point, that focus point of our perception, usually on the shoulder blade, zips down to the navel area. It tries to gather the body's remaining energy, the emanations. If the person hasn't prepared for this moment, all the energy besides the shell just explodes upwards towards the double. Colorful particles making up the being just fall apart. They disperse to different density levels almost immediately in the first minutes, leaving the unprepared person with, well, nothing in terms of integrated awareness carrying forward.
But, and this totally shifts the picture of death for more developed beings, those who have done practices like recalling past lives or maybe built a dreaming body, an energetic double, for them the end looks completely different. They have this center group of bundles, these flames, that control the rest of their being.
Right. These flames, the ones responsible for their embodiment in the first place, they then lead the awareness further, toward more aware parts of yourself, into these luminous vortexes of flames. And there, they apparently wait until they become complete, truly whole. And then they plan a new embodiment, one specifically aimed at reaching third attention, that fully integrated state.
It's just amazing, and it's apparently possible to reach that third attention while still physically alive, still in first attention ordinary reality, as a cocoon. This advanced cocoon is described as having flexible, long perceptor tubes, like heightened energy senses extending out. And all those colorful energy balls are unified, connected by beams of light, total integration.
And these advanced integrated cocoons, they are then drawn towards this really remarkable mechanism the source calls the Black Vortex.
Okay, the Black Vortex. This might ring a bell for some people, thinking of Carlos Castaneda's work, the eagle that tears awareness apart.
Exactly. But the speaker in these sources, claiming direct experience, says there is no such thing as eagle. They found the Black Vortex's real purpose isn't to destroy these united cocoons of third attention.
Right.
It's actually the opposite. Its function is to make them more dense. It's described like wheels of black plates that compress the cocoon, making its parts tighter, more integrated, more solid, energetically stronger.
Wow, okay. But what if a cocoon goes into this vortex with cracks? Still fragmented.
Yeah, that's the danger. Fragmented individuals or cocoons with significant cracks, they get pulled in by this unstoppable force, and they're torn apart like a meat grinding machine because the vortex's plates are just so much denser, so much more powerful than those weakened cocoons.
So density is key.
It seems so. And the speaker shared their own experience of going into the vortex without a crack. They were worried, obviously, but instead felt this incredible warmth and grace.
Yeah.
Deep comfort. They were squeezed, compressed, yes, but not torn apart. And they rose right through it to the very top, unharmed.
Incredible. But at the top,
Right.
what did they see? Something disturbing, right?
Yeah. At the top, they saw what they called a garbage dump of awareness. It contained all these torn apart cocoons, the fragmented leftovers. They said it was really creepy because this dump still had a pole. It was drawing them in too, even after they'd passed through the vortex intact.
A garbage dump of awareness. Wow. And what did this reveal? Something about repetition.
Exactly. This is where it gets incredibly insightful. This garbage dump showed repetitions. Pieces of beings who had lived the same lives and made the same mistakes again and again, trapped in cycles. The speaker noted that each double, that higher blueprint, has at least 50 such repetitions, 50 similar past lives associated with it.
50. Wow. So is there a point to these repetitions?
Apparently, yes. If one particular repetition, one life, shows even a little progress in developing warmth of attention, like a deepening of awareness or consciousness, and the double notices this breakthrough, it then strategically launches several more of such variants. Like the example given was, if a life as a male warlord showed progress, the double might launch, say, 100 more lives as a male warlord and maybe 100 as a female warlord, all to encourage and amplify that specific line of progress.
So it's like an intelligent self-correcting system trying to foster growth.
Precisely. The ultimate goal of this whole cosmic process, source calls gathering, it's where the team, that collective of flames and energies making up our being, decides to make somebody more successful. And the overall aim, to remember the dark self-awareness, the double, or as Wan famously put it, remember yourself and remember the ego. It's all a journey back to our complete integrated self.
Okay, let's bring this down to earth a bit. Practical insights, cosmic connections that matter for us now. The source links, DNA, incarnations, ancestors. They're all deeply connected. Your physical DNA apparently holds info from your other yous, those supporting flames acting like mentors. They put information into you from what are called tear-apart blocks.
Which are essentially fragments from other cocoons, maybe past experiences, that have been energetically processed and integrated. But you also grow independently. And when you do that work of restoring your own lost fragments, you're also kind of uniting with the aspects of those other yous or past lives that didn't succeed. And all that collective integrated information shows up as your genetic code, determining talents, tendencies, even illnesses. So in a way, you're your own mentor, the sum total of your energetic history.
That's mind-bending. What about practical things like after death, burning versus burying the body?
The source is pretty clear on that. No difference. It doesn't energetically matter for the departed being which method is chosen.
Okay, and what about those flyers mentioned earlier, those projections without an assemblage point?
Right. They don't die when the human host does. They just find their next watermelon, which sounds like a metaphor for their next energy source, their next food, and continue their existence. They don't have that focal point of awareness like we do.
Got it. So the speaker outlined some key practices, didn't they, for achieving this compacted self here in the third dimension and for moving forward consciously after death?
Yes, several key things. First, recapitulation, which isn't just remembering things. It's a specific energetic technique to restore lost fragments and remove energetic knots or blockages from past trauma, like untying old binds to get your energy back.
Okay, recapitulation. What else?
Second, sliding realities, learning to consciously slide between the points of reality. This involves constant dreaming practice and ongoing recapitulation to develop fluidity of consciousness. Third, learning to use ribbons as a chariot, which sounds like learning to navigate non-physical realms consciously, using energy currents to move and avoid getting pulled into lower densities.
Ribbons as a chariot
Okay.
and physical movement.
Right. Physical practices, like specific movements, are good too. They help focus the first and second attention, and they also help compensate the ego after it gets shaken up by losing a mask, a fixed identity. You always need a substitute goal, a focus for your energy.
This all leads to a huge question, though. What's beyond all this? Does it ever end?
The speaker describes infinity using a layered cake analogy. Imagine groups of energy fields, countless conscious beings, co-projecting a unified center. Then that center belongs to another bigger group of similar centers, and they project another center, and so on, infinitely, layer upon layer. The speaker actually admitted reaching a point where they were no longer interested in this endless repetition of similar structures, implying maybe there's something even beyond that.
A layered cake of realities. Wow. And that connects to the final big idea, the co-projection of reality.
Exactly. We're constantly projecting our perception out and also in shaping our reality. Like our collective belief in a round Earth, that's a co-projection, a shared agreement, even though we perceive things locally on a plane. But it's not just us. Billions of other beings, snails, trees, ants, they're also projecting their images of the world, creating these huge fields of perception that merge with Earth's own perception. And other planets, stars, they co-project one another too, interacting energetically, perceptually. So this whole reality is like an infinite layered cake of co-projected perceptions, a universe built entirely on shared awareness.
Wow. Okay, so where does that leave us? What does this all mean for you listening right now? We've gone from the spark of life through the pains of fragmentation, decoded the body's hidden language, and peered into this cosmic dance of death, rebirth, the double, and the drive to remember.
It really hammers home that our existence is just so much more intricate, so much more purposeful, and deeply interconnected than we usually think. I mean, the idea of recapitulation to get back lost parts of yourself, or the possibility of actually talking to the energy bundles in your body to heal, these aren't just cool ideas. They feel like direct invitations to engage more deeply, more consciously with our own being.
Exactly. And the thought that even this reality right now is a co-projection, a shared dream between everything from the tiniest ant to the biggest star, it really reframes our place in it all, doesn't it? This has been, a truly mind-expanding deep dive.
Yeah.
So much to think about.
Indeed. And maybe consider this. If we really are in this constant process of remembering ourselves, guided by these other yous and nudged along by the double, what's one small, deliberate step you could take, maybe even today, to start gathering back just one lost fragment of your own wholeness? What part of your unique contract, your deeper purpose, might you have been neglecting? And how could just acknowledging that begin to transform your experience of health, of life itself?
That is a powerful thought to end on. Keep exploring, everyone. Keep questioning. And definitely keep an eye on your dreams because, as we've heard today, that whole journey of remembering, it might just be unfolding right there, waiting for you.